Hi, my name is Avon or Nailsthatglow, depending on how you know me, and you are watching First Drafts That Glow. This is episode 17, and the story today is going to be, or is called, Thrill Chips. You like how smooth that intro was? Yeah. It's because I don't write them down, and I just kind of start, so... Anyways, tonight's episode might be a little disturbing, so if you're used to the past two stories and you're like, oh yeah, and Avon's going to be doing all these cutie little things all the time, yeah, that's not going to happen. I'm sorry. This one, I'm not really sure. I can't remember because, I write these in one sitting and I don't go back to, edit them or anything. Like I just fix glaring, spelling errors and grammatical errors. But there's no like rewriting sentences or anything like that or, editing. So yeah, I just remember it's a bit messed up. So yeah. I want to thank the people who've been, checking it out and, asking me about it and, showing interest. I just want some of those numbers to boost up on my YouTube. Tell your friends, like and subscribe, anything will help, I hate thinking that one day I might have to add ads into this. So, I don't want to do that. I don't ever want to do that. But if you're interested in supporting me, you can always go to nailsthatglow.com. There's links in the About page that can help me out in my projects and for my transition. What else? Oh, yeah. I'm not on the common social sites. I'm on Mastodon. The two Mastodon profiles I have, one is Mastodon Social, nailsthatglow, and I use that just to promote my shows. And then I have Eldritch Cafe, which is a more personal, social networking page. It took over what Twitter was for me, because... fucking Elon Musk. Also, fuck the GOP. All right. So I'm going to, as you can tell, I've resituated the microphone and some of the framing. This is still not perfect. There's still some shadow showing and stuff, but it's further back from me now. I know all these things, but I have limited space where I'm at, so I'm trying to be creative. But yeah, if I had the money, I would get this software package that could do it in real time, but expenses. The software I have, it's decent. It's pretty good. But it's not that high end shit. And no, it's not Mac. I will never be an Apple fanboy. I mean, if they want to send me some free technology for like video editing and stuff, sure. But my daily use stuff and my music stuff, that's always going to be Windows. Unless it isn't. Like, I don't know. If somebody wants to give me $300 so I can get Fruity Loops FL Studio, yeah. Physical copies of stuff. You lose a physical copy, you lose the key, you don't have it anymore. So I want to get a digital copy that I will never lose. That would be great. Anyways, okay. I've blathered on long enough. I told you about my websites and stuff, and yeah, this is the third episode of my second season. It feels good to be doing this. It really does. I just really hope you're entertained, and yeah, I don't know. All right, let's get to it, right? Let's get this party started, right? Let's get this party started quickly, right? Get on me, bang. Okay, anyways. Only us old kids know what that is. Hold on. I honestly think that the divine ichor of the Olympians from mythology, not the TV or movie versions, but the divine ichor within their bodies was actually coffee. Because they didn't die and they always had so much energy. Like, what if I replace my blood with coffee? Can it carry oxygen through my body? Can it do that? Do I really need blood plasma? I know the answer to these questions, but, whatever. All right, you ready for me to read? Yeah? All right, here we go. This is Thrill Chips, a First Draft That Glow story by me, Avon. I was born exhausted. That is what I remember. Every day was a chore. My parents were not terrible. The school life was fine, I suppose. There were even a good number of friends. The conflict with some of my friends and family related to me being gay. My dad sat me down one day when I told him I kissed a boy when I was 10. He said, "Now, son, I will support you no matter how you choose to love. Just remember that we expect you to marry a woman and have kids." As I got older, he added, "I'm sure you could just find a girlfriend you like and that would let you have a boy, that would let you, I just started, that would let you have a boyfriend." I'm making his words simpler than they were. It was an hour-long conversation about how people look at the family and how I could just keep my gay life behind the scenes. I ignored him and celebrated loud and proud. Through university, he kept asking if I had gotten it out of my system yet. My mom would set me up with these women that looked like they could give the Greek goddesses a run for their money. I didn't have the heart to tell my mom how many of them were gay or waiting to get from under the family thumb to transition themselves. I keep in touch with a few of them still. 2 of them are now twinks that became gym rats and gave me a call when they were in town. Why am I adding this to the start? I need you to understand. Understand that while I was not dealing with overt hatred, I was dealing with a family that wanted me to betray who I am just to make things normal as they saw it, as if my being into guys was unnatural. How much of a throwback could you be? I suppose the smooth-brained Republicans can give birth to a gay genius. It is also important because I'm still being accused of killing them. I was in the house that weekend. Yes, I was there. I did not kill them, nor did I kill the others. When you are done reading this account, I will likely be dead. I am sorry. I had no choice. It started when I needed to take time off. Work after a conflict with a new hire. This young man was more than forward with me. He caught up with me at a bar and groped me in the bathroom. He then followed me around insisting I fuck him. I reported him to our HR department the next day. The legal dance took 3 months, and boy, did it drain me. something I wanted to forget and just relax at home on my own bed and in my own hometown. The soft hills of my neighborhood with the thickly covered trees and the smell of snow in the air was relaxing. The balcony outside of my room faced a dense forest with a small clearing some people would often build a bonfire at. The colors and smell of garish wood, that had no business being burnt in the snowy northwest were all part of the comfort. Even the too loud home theater my dad watched old shows he loved from the 80s and 90s. I tried telling him about wireless headphones before I moved out. He said it would make him look like a dork. Like anyone would see him in the house watching Knight Rider or A-Team. When his golf mates would be over, they would watch those endlessly rehashed war documentaries while they all got so drunk they would take naps in the plush chairs of the small home theater. The night it started was just before that snap of cold started that made the inside of your nose hurt if you inhaled too fast or too often. The tip of the nose just getting a soft pink and your fingertips being angry when exposed to the air. It was wonderful. I was wearing my comfy boxers and wrapped in 3 blankets and a heating pad on my back. The coffee pod machine providing an endless supply of heaven as I listened to old CDs in a carousel I still had in my room. 300 of the worst CDs from the 80s and 90s you could pick. I loved them all, even the songs that I hated. I had it played the last playlist I programmed into it. All of them gothy, dirgy-like tracks with super mellow hip-hop and pop music sprinkled through. I remember falling asleep to 9 Inch Nails' Ring Finger that night. I had 3 coffees, spiked generously with whiskey. My need to not have to get to a meeting or be ready to answer a call gave my brain permission to drop into the deepest slumber since before the whole issue with that kid. I woke up to a series of screams. First, I thought it was something happening at the bonfire. That light was out. The sound came from inside the house, I realized. When I got up, the coffee machine, heating pad, mug, and bottle all clanged to the wooden floor. I heard the bottle crash on the patio below as I unwrapped myself running inside. You must understand, the houses in this neighborhood are not small. We all have an acre or two, and the homes themselves are large. The sounds of screams would not travel much past an open window on a silent day, let alone a windy or cold night. Everyone would have closed their windows, and the occasional night walkers took breaks a few months out of the year. I was surprised I heard anything in my room. The front half of my room had soundproofing from when I had drums. In just my ragged boxers, I ran downstairs trying to figure out where the yells and screams were coming from. First, I heard it from the kitchen, then the garage, then the other side of the house until I finally checked the home theater. Opening the door, thick with soundproofing, I was stunned. The wave of it had me kneeling to the floor. I felt my brain shake and my eyes feel like they might bounce out of my head from this noise. My heart and lungs shook, making it hard to breathe. I felt almost as if I was submerged. There was a small period before I could get up, like when your eyes adjust to the dark. I walked in nearly falling before reaching the next set of doors, cutting the lights from the snack hallway out of the space. There was a smell of pepperoni and ham. A normal plate of snacks for my dad when he had insomnia. Nausea kept my head down as I pushed through the next doors open. The flashes of light on the floor The flashes of lights on the floor hurt to look at. Raising my head was not easy. There was something holding my head down. Falling to my knees, I grabbed the sides of my head and tried to raise it up. It's hard to describe what I saw. There were impossible things happening to physical space. Light moved around apart from any source, the same with inky black shadows. The bodies of my dad and my mom were in a dozen places. Not pieces, just in dozens of places. A few times they were both also in front of me, asking me to help them with outstretched arms with no hands. As they asked, they seemed to be an overexposed picture of themselves as teens and a corpse. Each time I tried to make sense of what I was seeing, and it made my head hurt more. It was a creature in what I should possibly call the center of it all. Parts of it were both coming out of the screen and on either side of it. It had appendages that might have been arms or legs or tails or tentacles, I'm not sure. They looked like all those things, but nothing like any of those things I could understand all at the same time. The screams and yells were not made by my parents. This thing spewed out the sound. I can be confident in this because I saw the sound. Large cones of sound simmering in the air, leaving and entering various parts of the central body. Some of them washing over me, cowing me. That central mass was the most disturbing. There were times I thought the shape of it made sense. A horse or a deer. Then I made out what could have been a squid, maybe a winged person. The profile and outline was never still. I'm not sure if I saw these shapes or my mind was just trying to make sense out of what was there. I tried crawling to the row of seats my dad normally sat at. I kept my eyes closed and felt down the 5 rows of plush armchairs to the front. My eye saw the creature taking up the front row as I opened my eyes, but my hands felt nothing but the soft fabric. I reached to pass 3 of the chairs to get to my dad's favorite seat and felt his shoulder. The pins he had were still there in his shoulder. I don't know what I'm saying there. Oh, he got pins in his shoulder, so he felt them. Okay, yeah. That could have been worded better. When I touched him, I passed out. I woke to my dad calling my name. He was in a robe with coffee, with his oversized glasses nearly falling from his face. "You okay, son?" was the first thing I could make out. "Yeah, Dad. Where am I?" I looked around knowing it was the home theater. I had the worst nightmare. "Well, your mom couldn't find you, so I checked here before trying to call you." He looked me over and saw my body doing what it does in the morning. "You better get a robe on or something. Your mom doesn't want to see that." I laughed a little as I rushed past him and nearly missing my mom as I swung onto the stairs. In my room there was a mess. The blankets I was wrapped in on the floor, the coffee machine leaking water, and broken on the balcony. I figured part of last night was a dream. I might have woken up in a panic and then slept-walked the rest. Never did that before. I cleaned up everything while listening to Depeche Mode Ultra. I was lost in singing along as I was getting dressed. I nearly missed the discs on my dresser. They were about the size of a $50. One with a triangle and the other with a square, both in black lines on a deep red plastic of some kind, possibly resin. Like poker chips you might get at a casino, but not as decorated. They were new. And they were not there last night when I dug around for the boxers. Casino life was when I was a younger man. My mom and dad never came in here as they were both afraid of seeing gay porn or something. I put both of the chips in my pocket after I got dressed and then went to the patio. I went to the patio downstairs. "There's our moonbeam," my mom smiled through her judgmental grin. Yeah, Sometimes I write things and I'm like, wait a minute, and I have to rewrite it as I'm reading it because I'm like, wow, that's dumb. Okay. I see you passed out in the theater last night. I told you, no porn on that screen. The look on my face was answer enough as she refused to acknowledge it fully. My dad, glancing at both of us, pulled a mug right side up, filling it, and then offering it to me. I thanked him as I sat down and added a bit of honey to the brew. Did either of you hear anything last night? I tried not to sound like I was asking if they heard me have sex. Generally, that was the only reason I ever asked. No, son, why? Did you have company or something? His voice slightly lower as he asked. No, Dad. I just had a nightmare and thought it might have been an ambulance or some kind of alarm. I'm not used to it in the house. No, your mother and I slept like logs. Sipping his coffee in the... We slept like logs, he said, sipping his coffee. I remember your mother waking up once to ask me to get her water. That's about it. I'm just really mentally spent from that mess with my job. Really glad I could take this time off. Dropping her fork on her plate to make noise, she waits for me to look at her before talking. If you would not be messing about with these filthy men, it would never have happened. Her lips get thinner as she pretends to sip her coffee. Mom, I plead, we've talked about this. Besides, do you honestly think this doesn't happen to straight people? You mean normal people? She snaps. My dad stands. Both of you just calm down. It's nice you're here, son. Your mom just wants to have grandchild before she dies. As soon as I find the right guy, we can get a surrogate or adopt, or might even find a guy that can have a kid. My mom nearly chokes on air and almost knocks over her chair as she stands to leave. My dad fails at getting her attention and follows her. I grabbed a bowl of strawberries and some of the cheese. When I felt more awake, I took a shower and decided to get a rideshare to the club. I could get lunch there and might run into some old friends, I was thinking. I made sure to smell like leather and tobacco and cleaned up the lines on my stubble. I was hoping to find another kind of relaxation tonight. The driver looked at me in a strange way and asked me if I felt okay. I told him I was, and confirmed the destination. He cracked his window, letting the cold air in. I guess he was not into my musky smell. He dropped me off, and I said something about my face, and he said something about my face looking like death. I knew I looked a bit rougher. Nearly no sleep these past months. It felt like I would lose the case and everything would be taken from me. That would worry anyone. Once inside the club, the low lighting with the atmospheric lo-fi versions of disco classics filling the space between all of the lovely queer people instantly gave me life and vitality. The bartender tried to get me to remember him from high school. He claimed I was eager to give him a blowjob in the bathroom. I recall he begged me for one. I played it off because I didn't want to correct him. He gave me 2 Cosmos in place of the one I ordered and told me to enjoy the extra drink on him. I went back where the picnic tables were. They moved them at night for dancing space. Daytime had them in a cross shape. I was invited to sit with a group of some masculine folks. Hours later, I was drunk and became the arm candy for a masked non-binary that told me very clearly they wanted to top me. I was there for it. Also, there for their boyfriend. This beautiful creature drove us to their place in a giant truck that could have been a 5-person tent. The music was really old bluegrass. I had never heard before. The boyfriend carried me over his shoulder into the house. I was having so much fun. About an hour into the evening, I was in dire need of a quick cleanup before things got even more fun. A bit of this and that, and a refresh of smell, and some glitter on my lips because I like it, and then I was ready. Opening the door, I fell to my knees again. The sound... excuse me. The sound was a wall falling on top of me. Something in the back of my head was telling me to get out now, to run, and to never look back. Another part of me told me to go look and enjoy. Crawling to the living room slowly through the thick air hurt. My hands and knees felt like they were on large nail points. Each time I tried to look up, the sound got louder, pushing my head down. The hallway felt like a decline. I was crawling up and sideways on. Moments felt like I was up. Some moments felt like I was upside down, and a few as if I was wrapped in nails. It began to hurt to move. Stopping wasn't an option. I tried a few times and my body just kept going. Once in the living room, my head felt like it was held up. Both of the people that brought me here were twisted together and laying in front of me having sex while they were also begging me to help them. Both jawless, with ribs and guts exposed as they pleaded. My mind reeled and denied all of it as I was unable to close my eyes. The shadows moving in inchworm ways, rising off surfaces, then going flat. The light lingering inside of objects, playing hide and seek with other lights. That creature was there, each of its appendages manipulating something. I followed one of the things rise and slide towards me. It touched me from the left, above, and in front of me. It wasn't three of them. It just was the same one. I know it was. I was being held up and laid down and made to watch the two people get flayed while having sex and dismembered before starting sex. All of it happening out of order, some of it in reverse. The pretty non-binary reached for me, asking me why. I tried to reach their hand before I hit the wall and everything went dark. When I woke up, the boy and his partner were making breakfast. Eggs, sausage, potatoes, with 2 fingers of whiskey. They both made fun of me for sleeping so late, and both asking if they could call me again. I gave them my number and wondered if my nightmare made me act funny while sleeping. They seemed to have a private joke that made each of them giggle. It felt like a couple just happy they had a fun time and sharing in the joy. I was offered a ride and politely declined. My clothing was in a neat pile next to the fireplace. On top of my clothing were 2 new chips. One with a circle with a line in it, and the other just a circle. I was about to ask if either of them knew what these were, but I just put them in my pocket without giving it a second thought. The rideshare driver was concerned that I looked sick. I thanked him for the concern and made a joke about getting older and drinking too much. His giggle was cute as he agreed. The drive home felt longer than it should have. I now had 4 chips. One with 4 lines, one with 3, another with 2, and then 1. All of them a deep red, and showing up after terrible nightmares. Nothing about this made sense to me. I've never had nightmares before. I also couldn't remember having sex last night. Those 2 seemed to have had fun. I knew I didn't drink that much, so why was I having such a hard time with all of this? When I got home, my mom and dad were not around. I guess they went shopping or went out to eat somewhere swanky. My dad needed to butter up my mom to calm her down sometimes. Typical WASP, you know, white Anglo-Saxon Protestant. Or basic bitch. I love my mom, but she is a basic bitch. I went to my room and took a shower. My hands and knees were sore and my torso felt bruised. I couldn't see anything. I also felt like my inner thighs were bleeding, and it stung when I washed, but they looked fine. My mind was messing with me, I thought. I went to bed digging around for the TV remote. The TV was not getting great reception, typical for satellite in this area. All I could make out was some kind of excuse me. All I could make out was some kind of break-in, and death was causing a stir. Frustrated. Here, let me reread that. Okay? All I could make out was a news program talking about some kind of break-in and death causing a stir. Frustrated, I ended up playing music again, digging around for a bottle of something to sip on. My head and body disagreed with this, and I drifted to sleep with Enya sailing me away. The heat was the first thing I felt before I was aware enough to open my eyes. I was sweating, and I felt like there were marks all over my body. I couldn't move, and my mouth felt sour, like I had puked. My wrists and ankles hurt. Opening my eyes also hurt. There was a bright light over my head. I couldn't lift my head or move it to either side. When my eyes adjusted, I figured I was in a hospital room of some kind. I could look enough to see my arms were strapped down, an IV in each forearm. My mouth felt dry and chapped. My ears were on fire, and my feet felt like they were asleep. My legs were in a funky position. I tried to call out, and my voice was very weak. There was a pain in my throat, like someone went in my throat and used a razor to cut irregular lines up and down. That is when I noticed that the sensation on my face and in my throat that was new. I had a tube in my nostril down my throat. No idea how long I was waiting for someone to come tell me what was going on when a nurse finally came in and noticed my eyes darting around. She gave me a weak smile and told me she would bring some ice chips and chapstick. She came back and sat the bed up a little, being able to see little of my body, but saw cuts and bruises all up and down my arms. The fabric on my chest felt rough. The nurse warned me that I would feel a bit anxious in a moment. She injected something into my right IV and said someone would be over soon. She didn't lie. I felt like one does when you do more speed than you should and you think you might die. I was delirious when another nurse came in and removed the tube in my nose and gave me a fluid to drink that made my throat feel better. It might have had peppermint or something because my sinuses were never so clear. Soon, 4 or 5 people, I'm not sure, came into the room, 2 of them with badges hanging around their necks. The rest I couldn't see clearly. Only the 2 people with badges talked to me. One of them looked like the guy from Lethal Weapon, you know, the one with a mustache. The other one could have been a Fox News reporter woman. They introduced themselves, but the names didn't stick. The mustache asked, "Do you know where you are?" "Hospital?" I managed with a growl. "Yes. Do you know how long you have been here?" Why am I tied down?" The woman snapped. "Answer the fucking question." I have no idea. What's going on?" Mustache looked at his partner as she took a step back. "When is the last time you saw your parents?" "The day before I went out to hook up with some people." The grit of my voice loosened some mucus, and a nurse appeared with a washcloth, telling me to spit it out. It felt like a slug passing out of my mouth. I had a bit of an argument with my mom before leaving." My voice felt more normal. "Do you know anything about these 2 people?" He points to his partner on the other side of the bed, and she holds up 2 pictures of the non-binary and his fella I hooked up with. They look familiar. I don't know their names. I think I was at their place. I think we had sex." "All of you?" he said, looking up from his notepad. "Yeah, we met at the club, and they drove me to their place." The woman leaned in. "Is that a normal thing for you, to hook up with some guys you can't remember the names of?" Well, one of them was non-binary. I remember, and their boyfriend. I coughed, seeing stars in my eyes each time. But yeah, I mean, like lots of people are poly and just like having sex. Where have you been? I look at her, catching her gaze. The deep voice of Mustache interrupts. Okay, we get it. Nothing weird about that. Did you talk to them after that night? No, but listen, why am I tied down? How long have I been here? Why does my body hurt so much? My heart started to race. I could hear it in my ears. My eyes felt larger and breathing felt harder, and I started to shake. The two badges backed up as nurses swarmed the bed, one of them adding something to my IV on the left as the bed lowered. I started to feel heavy. The last thing I heard was the blonde saying, when are we going to charge him? The next time I woke up, I was hungry. I called out and asked for food. The nurse used... Hold on. Coffee. I don't know what's going on with my throat. I'm not sick. Oh, it's allergies. All right, where was I? The next time I woke up, I was hungry. I called out and asked for food. The nurse used a headset she was wearing to ask for food. Moments later, another nurse with a police officer behind him walked in. He fed me applesauce, some yogurt, and a green smoothie. He asked me a series of questions about the catheter and if I needed a bedpan. I was upset. Why was I here? Why did they put a tube in my dick? Am I not allowed to get up to shit? A few days went by before I saw the badges again. The straps were removed in favor of cuffs with small... The straps holding me down were removed in favor of cuffs that gave me small range to allow me to feed myself and itch a few places. I was feeling trapped and very frustrated. Nobody would talk to me about anything other than medical stuff. I begged and even offered money to a few nurses to call my lawyer and tell him where I am. The badges both looked like they had not slept. Mustache had a nervous look in his eyes, and the blonde's eyes looked sunken, like she had been crying. They both were concerned with how I felt and if I was doing well. After some of those basics, the blonde took the lead. I need to ask you if you have ever been violent with anyone in your life. Me? Violent? I like getting smacked around a little when I was with the right guy, but me violent with someone? It caught me off guard. She asked again before I said, no, never. I like it when the other guy gets rough, but not... I haven't ever been in a fight. She looks at her partner and sighs. Okay. Can you tell us how much you can bench at the gym? What? My voice broke as the high pitch came out. Weights. How much can you manage? Do you do a lot of strength training? I can bench 220 maybe, I think. I guess I could carry 50-pound sandbag at the gym without a problem for a while. Never really kept close track. Mustache clears his throat, looking hard at his partner. Do you ever go hunting? Me? No, never. But your dad is a hunter, right? He never showed you how to carry a deer or skin it? The fuck are you asking me for? I felt my heart in my ears again. Why won't anybody tell me why I'm here? Can somebody please call my lawyer? I began to hear a ringing in my ears and couldn't hear what else they said before walking away. A nurse came over adjusting one of the hanging bags, and I fell asleep again. The next time I woke up, I was in a new room. The restraints were padded, but extended enough for me to stand up this time. The walls were bare. The bed was a kind I had never seen, almost like a robot. The window was looking out to a clear sky. I saw no tree line or shadows. I figured I was a number of floors up. I couldn't get close enough to the window. I saw a TV hanging on the opposite wall of the bed, with a sign explaining the voice commands that made it work. I tried to use the TV to call a nurse. Couldn't find a call button. I looked everywhere, until I noticed one of my cuffs had a small red patch on it. Pressing it, I got a large man in the room asking if I was hungry, and instructing me to be in bed when he came back. I got into bed and told the TV to play new wave music. The nurse came back and, nodding his head to the Blondie song, he wheeled a bed table over to me with a few plates domed with plastic. Where am I? I saw milk and orange juice and a decent-sized cup filled with what I think was regular soda. He told me to tilt my head back and open my mouth. I saw a small cup with pills and obliged. He dropped 4 or 5 pills in my mouth and told me to drink them down before he could leave. He used tongue depressors to check around my mouth before leaving and told me I had 30 minutes to eat. The way he was dressed told me I was in some kind of facility and not a proper hospital. The food was also not what you would expect. Steak, cheesecake, soda? My parents or someone was making sure I was taken care of. After eating the food, I felt sleepy. The next series of days were just like this. I felt like it was a slight variation of the day before each time. I felt detached and very weak. The soreness in my body was gone, and they didn't ask much of me. They would occasionally take a blood sample and check the pee tube and make sure I was cleaned. More than a great deal of degrading. I didn't feel like I was in danger or in trouble. I obviously experienced something, and they decided to be patient. Eventually, they would tell me. When that day came, I wish I could go back and undo it. The badges came to my room and sat far enough away that even if I got out of bed, I couldn't reach them. They both wore gloves and face shields. This was the first time I recalled the nurses all wearing surgical masks and face shields. It didn't register until now. Mustache started. We're told you are recovered and able to calmly take in some information and answer some questions. Sure, I guess. Will my lawyer be here as well? Crossing my arms, thinking I had the upper hand. He has been speaking to us this entire time. It's why you are here, not in a cell, he said. We've been patient, waiting for you to be able to be interviewed before we formally charge you. Charge me? I sat up sharply, fast enough to hear the air zoom past my ears. Charge me for what? The blonde stood up, setting a small projector on her chair, turning it to a blank space on the wall. The murder of these 4 people. 2 of them being your parents, and the other 2 people you claim to have had sex with. The pictures she scrolled through were horrible. A picture of my mom, followed by a picture of a skinless body with fingers in the eye sockets and breasts for shoulder pads. My father in one, smiling, and in the next his head sitting between what I supposed were his legs, facing his groin. The 2 I spent the night with were wrapped in some kind of maypole dance. Each angle and new reveal of the gore made my mouth go warm and sour. I started to cry just before puking on myself, asking them why they think I did this. I started to yell and scream and thrashed about. This had to be a nightmare as well, I remember thinking. It was a few days before they came back. They both looked worried. The mustache tried to start talking a few times and couldn't manage it. The blonde did all of the talking this time. The pictures we showed you were done within one night of each other. We have testimony and footage from 2 rideshare drivers that show you with marks on your hands and blood in your nails. Each of them recalls seeing dried red flakes on your hairline, as well as the smell one of them called the skinning smell of the hunt. She paused. When we found you, you had piled all of your tools and clothing in your room and was asleep on top of all of it. You were nonverbal, and you didn't appear to register anything anyone said. You were tested for drugs, and nothing was found. Your lawyer was contacted that day, and he has been staying in the guest house on your parents' property while everything is legally taken care of. He's been here 3 times to talk to you, and you don't remember any of it, it seems. The doctors say you are disassociating, and this is a care facility you will live in the rest of your life. We need to know if you understand all of that or not. My head hurt hearing all of this. I couldn't make sense out of any of it. I remember seeing my parents and those 2 lovers before leaving. They weren't dead. None of them. I just had nightmares. I looked up and around knowing that this was to be my home. I tried to clear my throat. I tried to tell her I had no idea what was going on, that I am not capable of doing anything like this. The only words that came out of my mouth were, "It was fun." I tried again to tell her this was all a huge mistake. The words that came out of my mouth, out of my face were, "I even ate some of the skin." Both badges sighed heavy. They both left without saying anything. I couldn't understand the disconnect between what I wanted to say and what I said. I felt like I was going insane. Did I think the words I said? Did I think those words I said? I never thought anything on this level of horrible. I couldn't even watch gore movies, let alone skin people. Skin my parents? Do the things I saw in those pictures? That last night was the limit for me. I just can't deal with this. Knowing that my hands did those things, and the impossible part of this you must believe. That night, I woke up standing next to the window, looking over the city. I had to be more than 30 floors up. No restraints or anything somehow. When I looked where the door was, there was nothing but a blank wall. When I tried to walk back to the bed, it wasn't there, and I couldn't move my feet. I was holding something in my hands. Each hand had 2 of the chips, each chip vibrating violently. One of them screaming with my dad's voice, another with my mom's. The other 2 started rapping together and fell apart rapidly with screams, begging, echoing. I held my hands in front of me, watching the chips dance in and out of reality, breaking the rules by moving on their own. The sound so clear, yet distant. They all called my name, blamed me for the pain, and cursed me repeatedly. When I looked back through the window, I saw the thing again. Did you hear that? That was a big truck passing by. I need soundproofing. I saw the thing again, turning and folding among the shadows and blobs of light, the appendages reaching behind an invisible wall or window before showing up again in a new place or 3 places at once. I noticed an eye in the center of this impossible creature. It looked like my eye. The iris looked like it floated above and under the white pulsed light. The white pulsed like a heartbeat, and the colors moved in an irregular pattern in fast and slow waves, alternating fast and slow waves. Heard was wrong. I knew something new. The eye put it in there. I know it. In my mind, I knew the chips I had were things I could cash in. These thrills, the eye called them. These thrills could change the world in my favor. I only needed to kill 4 more people close to me. Only had to serve 4 more people to the abyss. It wanted me because I was listening. I heard it. I couldn't find when I heard it in my head. When I asked it to help me, or what I asked it to do for me, no memory of an offer or promise. Just that I needed to kill 4 more and I would have anything I wanted. I felt tears on my face. I saw the tears were made up of blood and bile. My eyes stung. I smelled copper and tasted rust. I refocused my eyes and saw my reflection. I saw my nose was partially cut off. There were large chunks of my face that had been skinned and had patches with large stitches and clear bandages. My lips looked like I took scissors to them. My throat was missing all of the skin and wrapped in clear bandages. One of my ears was gone. I focused on my eyes, and one of them looked wrong. One of them looked like a fish's eye. There were even some kind of scales around it. I closed my eyes tightly and turned my hands upside down to drop the chips. I took deep breaths and tried to picture the balcony and looking over the forest. When I opened my eyes, the room was back to normal, but I was still unrestrained. In the cabinet, I found this paper and some pencils to write this. As soon as I am done, I'm going to try to break the window and jump. If I can't manage that, I will make sure I don't wake up. These pages I will put in the cup I put the chips in, and I'm sorry if you touch them. I fear they will do the same to you. I put that in my head as well. If I die, I won't escape it. But I gotta try. It can't be ignored or hidden. He is coming from the depths, rising soon, rising above the oceans. The chips are yours now. I'm going to pray there is nothing on the other side. I am so very sorry. What'd you think? What'd you think? Was it good? I don't know. I liked this story. I think it has possibilities. Like I could flesh it out more. Maybe I'm still I haven't had time to flesh out some of the season 1 stories like I promised I would do. The world doesn't always work the way you want it to. But I've read a lot of Lovecraft, a lot. And, some Lovecraft stories were just, if you read them, you're like, the fuck is going on? It doesn't make sense. People die, somebody's doing something weird, they find a weird statue, and then the story ends. I like putting in an ending at the very least. But the inexplicable horror happening and not knowing is, in my opinion, really great. Like, I love being vague in some of these stories. Like, just, it's a ride. I liked it. I also like that I didn't name the character. And I didn't give too many physical descriptions. The boys that he hooked up with, twinks go for twinks. Sometimes, twinks are also otters. If you don't know what all this is, go look it up. I feel sorry for you. You should know these things. Anyways. I'm so happy you joined me today. I hope you really enjoyed this kind of creepy Lovecraftian story. Please visit me at nailsthatglow.com. All my other projects are on there in my nightly blog. Also, Eldritch Cafe, Nails That Glow, and Mastodon Social, Nails That Glow. To keep up with, other things. And like and subscribe. tell your friends. You know, I'm a cute space cat that reads stories that I write. They're completely original. And I'm still getting a grip of like filming and editing and all that stuff. You know, I really need a better computer. But anyways, I again thank you so much for joining me. And you got to join me next week. I'm not really sure what next week's story is. I should probably look all this stuff up before I even start recording. So I'm going to look right now because my computer's like right here. I'm not wearing my glasses, so this will be fun. Let's see. Yeah, next week the story is called Shallow Reason. I write these by just, having 5 random words. I generally make the titles out of some of those words. Pretty cool, right? Anyways, I've been Avon, or Nails That Glow, and I love you.